Hey there, Mr. Redder here. You won't believe what happens in today's Entitled People stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Entitled Aunt thinks family means free dog sitter at her demand. After that, am I the jerk for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll? And after that, you want eye contact? Okay, sir. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets her own puppy. I've always wanted my own puppy. Whee! So please smash that like button. And subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Entitled Aunt thinks family means free dog sitter at her demand. So my aunt is always going camping with her son or hiking trips with her boyfriend about every other weekend, and she never takes her dog with her. The current excuse is she doesn't think he'll get along with her boyfriend's dog. She never takes him anywhere, always has me and my parents' dog sit for her. It wouldn't be a problem if he wasn't a dog from heck. He pees on everything, he's super territorial, he bites people for being too close, terrorizes my cats to the point that they're terrified of coming downstairs when he's here. When we dog sit, she rarely picks him up when she's supposed to. She's always super late to everything. She'll say that she'll be here at 9 p.m. and instead it's close to midnight when she shows up. Or she won't show up until the next day because she or her son were too tired to swing by on their way home to get the dog. There have been several instances where she'll ask my dad if he can watch the dog, and even without him actually agreeing to it, she'll show up in our backyard with her dog for us to watch. She has a history of having Facebook tantrums about how she has to cancel her plans during the times we say no, and how it's so unfair to her. Well, my parents are going on a 2-week vacation at the start of August. I'm staying home to take care of the house and our pets, and have plans to go to my grandma's, who lives 1.5 hours away, to do a joint birthday celebration with hers, since our birthdays are that first week of the month. My aunt heard about my parents' plan of vacation last month and decided around the 4th that she's going on a vacation to the Grand Canyon with her son, her boyfriend, and his son, for those same 2 weeks my parents will be having theirs. The woman had the actual gall to ask my folks to reschedule their vacation so that they'd be home to babysit her dog for 2 weeks. My parents flat out refused because why should they have to reschedule their vacation for her? She refused to accept their refusal, and while we were all hanging out at my grandma's backyard, she just kept trying to persuade us. My aunt, we, her and her son, never get to take a vacation together out of state. I don't want to have to cancel. Dad, you don't have to cancel. You'll have to find someone or some place to watch your dog since wife and I won't be here, or just take him with you. And, well, he's not good with these kinds of trips. Mom, have you ever actually taken him on a trip? You don't know how well he handles these if you've never taken him. And, well, he probably won't get along with boyfriend's dog, and he gets so mean around people. OP, you're not going, so you can watch him, can't you? You don't have anything else to do. Me, no, I have plans during that time, and watching him on my own is exhausting. He bit me 3 times the last time he was here, and I have to watch him like a hawk to make sure he doesn't attack my cats. Well, the cats just hide upstairs when he's around, so they'll be fine. Me, and you think it's fair for our cats to have to hide upstairs for 2 whole weeks? One of them gets so freaked out by him just being there that she barely eats when he's around. 3 days is hard enough on her. 2 weeks is cruel. Well, you could figure something out. I really don't want to have to take him to the kennels for 2 weeks. I don't think it's humane to keep a dog in a kennel. Are you sure you two can't just push your vacation back a few weeks? It's just a lot of no's, and eventually the conversation dropped and we thought that everything was fine. But then my aunt went on her usual Facebook rants because she probably felt no one in the family would see. Only my mom, my sister, our uncle, different aunt's husband, and his son are ever really on Facebook besides her. Going on a "woe is me, the world is unfair" complaint about how we're mean and that family is supposed to help each other out. So why can't we just stop being selfish and watch her dog? And if she doesn't have anyone to watch her dog, then she and her son will have to cancel plans and won't be able to go with her boyfriend and his son to the Grand Canyon, and how unfair this was to them. She's also been pestering us constantly since then, the Facebook post, to see if we're suddenly available to take her dog for her. I'm honestly not going to be surprised if she just shows up in the backyard again to drop him off, regardless of being told no. Edit. I see people bringing up pretty valid concerns of him really hurting someone, but I don't think he's physically capable of that. He can be a pretty mean jerk, but he's also like 10 pounds and an ankle biter who's missing half his teeth. He can bite and it'll sting, but it's fairly easy to throw him off with how little and light he is. Though I don't encourage throwing animals, if he attacks someone, it wouldn't be that hard to do. Though I do think he'd be very capable of hurting other small animals. But I ain't an expert in this field, so I might be wrong. Tell her this. Tell her, I know you asked if I could keep the dog and I said no. I meant it. Just in case you forget and accidentally drop your dog off, I'm reminding you now that I am unavailable. If your dog gets dropped off, he will be taken to a kennel. If they refuse him for any reason, he will be taken to a shelter. I am unavailable. If you put me in this situation, I will assume you no longer care about the dog and have abandoned him. Speaking of dogs, what's your favorite dog in the world? Please let us know. Rottweilers for the win. Reddit boy had one when he was little, and he misses her so much. Am I the jerk for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll? I, 26 male, have been with my still girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 4 years. Last year, I gave her a key to my house. She spends a few days there, but we don't live together full time. A few days ago, I had to make a quick trip for work. She asked me if she could invite a few of her friends to the house for a girls' night. It was on Thursday. I accepted. I returned yesterday in the morning. The first thing I noticed was that the rag doll was missing from the wall. My first instinct was to call my girlfriend to ask if she had put it somewhere else. She denied it and said the doll was there. It wasn't. I checked the GPS of the doll. Yes, it has a GPS. The GPS marked the house of one of her friends. Let's call her Jess. I tried to be nice and told my girlfriend to tell her friend to bring it back before 5 p.m. and I'll pretend this never happened or I'll involve the police. She tried to fight it, but I told her about the GPS. Well, my girlfriend called me back saying that Jess denied having the doll. We had a huge argument and I warned her that I wasn't playing about getting the police involved. I waited until 5 and went to the police. We went to her house and got the doll back. I pressed charges. My girlfriend and I had a bigger argument about me pressing charges. They, including her, knew that the doll was made by my father. They could have stolen anything else and I wouldn't bat an eye. I gave her friend a chance and she tried to play stupid. They've been calling me a jerk and to drop the charges. Edit. I will answer some of your questions here. If you have more, I will try to answer them. The doll is with me. It's a rag doll. Better said, it's a Raggedy Ann doll. My father had many hobbies. He tried making dolls and was planning to sell them, but the first one he made was a Raggedy Ann doll, so it didn't last. He was too manly to sell Raggedy Ann dolls. Ridiculous, I know. And he gave me that one. And actually, he made 4 more for my best friends. The doll was hanging in my room, but once he passed, I hung it in the living room. It has X's as eyes, and it looks creepy. It has a GPS because my home was robbed 7 months ago. I don't care if they clean out the house as long as they leave the doll. I have more expensive items she could have stolen, so I don't know why she would steal the doll other than a sick joke. My girlfriend never complained about it, at least not to me. I haven't talked to her other than telling me to drop the charges. I will talk to her tomorrow to find out why she let her friend take the doll. They've been here before and never did anything like this. And about our relationship, because right now, I'm thinking about breaking up. Not the jerk, but your girlfriend is for being upset with you rather than the friend who literally stole from you. Don't drop these charges, dude. Stand your ground and maybe rethink if you want to be with a girl who's okay with sentimental items made by your father being stolen from you. Oh, and change her locks, but don't give her a new key. Not the jerk. Jess could have saved herself from the hassle of police involvement by not stealing or by just fessing up and returning the doll once caught. Your girlfriend could have saved Jess from the hassle of police involvement by telling Jess to cut the crap once she knew the doll had a tracker in it and was unequivocally being stored at Jess's place. You gave them every option to do the right thing. It's not your fault they chose poorly. Also, change your locks. Your girlfriend is obviously not trustworthy enough to have unmonitored access. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend and Jess? Please let us know. I want to know why you'd even be willing to stay with her after this crap. You want eye contact? Okay, sir. Background. I used to work retail in a DVD/CD store that rhymes with manatee. It's in Australia. We had computers that we could use to find certain titles and artists in the store if we had it in stock, or we could even order from any of the other 300 plus stores in the country and have it shipped to the store. Many people would use this for older CDs or collector items that were harder to get. One day, an older bloke came in asking about a certain smaller 80s rock band. I can't really remember the name. I looked on the computer for him and was about to track down their album names, which of those albums he wanted, located the album in stores around the country, and got his details to enter into the computer for when the albums arrived in stores so that we could contact him. He thanked me and said that he was so happy we could get these albums in for him and left the store. The next day, I get called into the boss's office because of a customer complaint. It was and is my only ever complaint in any job for the past 9 years of working. He had rang up and complained that while my service was lovely, I didn't make enough eye contact when I was using the computer. Cue malicious compliance. 3 days later, he came in because he had another band he wanted to order. Luckily, I was working. As soon as he walked in, I greeted him with the biggest smile and locked him straight in the eyes. When he asked if we had any of his band in stock, I typed in the computer while maintaining direct eye contact. It took me about 4 tries to find the right keyboard letters as I wasn't that great at touch typing. He was starting to get annoyed, but he didn't voice it. Then I had to search what store location these albums were at. That took another couple of attempts to type. I turned the computer monitor around to the point it looked like I was going to snap it off. I had to move displays from the counter, which took more time, but finally I was able to set it up at such an angle that I could read it off with a quick glance, but also still maintain eye contact. At this point, he started to squirm and look away, but I was only beginning. Next was his details and taking his deposit, normally $10. It took me a solid 6 attempts to enter his details into the system, as you had to select each box to type in, and that was hard considering I wasn't looking. At this point, he had gone rather quiet and was looking at his shoes. When he handed me his money, I still maintained direct eye contact and even dropped it accidentally out of my hand, which then led me to awkwardly slap around on the floor until my hand found it. Wouldn't want to break that eye contact looking for a few coins. After all the typing attempts, it took me an extra 10 minutes to serve him, all because I couldn't look at what I was doing. To this day, I've seen him a couple of times, but he won't come to my register, and he doesn't make eye contact or hides in the aisles until I'm busy with another customer. A shame, really. He had such lovely brown eyes. Am I the jerk for expecting my girlfriend to pay for her stay at my family's cabin? My grandparents own a big old cabin where every generation after them has enjoyed annual family vacations. Due to the cabin's age, there is constant maintenance that needs to be done. Every time we've replaced, fixed, or repaired something, there's another thing that needs fixing. We also started slowly renovating the cabin as the interior has become quite dated as well. These costs have become too much for my grandparents to handle alone, especially since their age means they can't do much of the work themselves, and they need to hire professionals instead. This has caused them to implement a fee system. The rule is as follows. Every person from the age of 20 years old needs to pay an annual fee to be allowed to stay in the cabin. The size of the fee varies as it is calculated according to how many people plan on using the cabin and how big the upkeep costs were the previous year. I've happily paid this fee ever since the rule was implemented, and so have my parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Every summer, my extended family tries to find a weekend during the summer where most of our vacations overlap so that we can all meet at the cabin and catch up. I decided to invite my girlfriend along as I want to introduce her to this tradition, as she is someone I'm imagining spending many future summers at the cabin with. She was ecstatic about the idea of meeting my extended family and going to the cabin, as she's very curious about it after hearing me talk about it a lot. Naturally, I sat her down and told her about the rule and how she needed to pay, as everyone else paid, and it was only fair for her to do so as well since she would be using the cabin when coming with me this year. The year's fee is around $200 to $400, depending on how many people use the cabin, due to a big roof leak and some pretty substantial water damage. The idea of paying this fee really upset her, and we had a big argument where she concluded with saying she would make other plans without me this summer. The rule is very simple and made completely fair on everyone. I don't understand why she thinks she should be exempt from this. My brother told me I should just pay her fee for her, as my extended family really would like to meet her. but I really don't think that's fair for me to pay double the fee when she's completely capable of paying it herself. Am I the jerk? Edit. The cabin is not leaky anymore. All the damages were fixed this spring. My uncle handles the finances for this and usually pays for everything before calculating the individual costs at the end of the year. You're the jerk. She's perfectly within her right not to want to spend $200 to $400 for a weekend at a shared, broken-down cabin. It's not her family's property, she has no emotional attachments to it, and she may never reap the benefits of fixing it up. If she pays the fee and she only visits this one time and her and OP break up, is she still entitled to use the rest of her contribution? $200 to $400 for the pleasure of staying in a broken-down cabin with a leaky roof? I cannot imagine how moldy it smells. No thanks. You're the jerk. She's your guest, not a family member who agreed to pay into the communal fund. Paying $200 to $400 to stay in a crappy cabin for a weekend with a bunch of strangers is an absurd ask. Not the jerk. Part of planning and going on a vacation is deciding what fits in your budget and is worth the price to you. Visiting your family cabin may be worth $200 to $400 to you, but it isn't to your girlfriend. Paying $400 for a weekend in a cabin that you'll share with lots of other people? Don't think it's worth it for anyone. She'll be cheaper off renting a fancy Airbnb nearby and meeting you for dinner. Besides, while it makes sense to charge an annual fee to people who co-own the cabin, why would you also charge any additional guest? What kind of wear and tear do you expect her to do to the cabin in one weekend that would justify this kind of price? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. She's your guest, bruh. She shouldn't have to pay. Am I the jerk for banning my girlfriend from my hospital room? I have a medical condition which sent me to the hospital. I was taken to the hospital where my family and girlfriend were waiting for me. This is the first time I've had an incident, and my girlfriend being available to come to the hospital. Only happened one other time, and I didn't tell her until after the fact. She came into my room once the nurse gave permission. She asked if I was okay, got me a blanket, and helped me out since I couldn't move much. She couldn't stay the entire time because she had to work early in the morning, and I told her to go home and sleep. Got to the hospital about 10:30 p.m. The next day, she came to my house after work. I told her she had no right to be there yesterday at the hospital or even be in my room since she's not family, and I didn't want her there. She told me my mom told her to go in her stead and to step back and let my girlfriend finally start letting her be the one to be there for me and my medical issues since we've been together for several years. Let her start taking wifely duties, I guess. I told her I want her nowhere near me before or after my surgery. Had to get surgery due to an injury from the incident. She seemed upset by all this and said I was being rude and hurtful. I told her I meant it, and if she came, I wouldn't let her in my room or the building. About a week later, my mom and girlfriend were out, and apparently my mom brought up about her being there for the surgery, which my girlfriend then told her what I said and will not be going since that's what I told her. My mom said I'm being a jerk for being mean and hostile to my girlfriend about it. I don't think I did anything wrong, even if I did yell at her. Am I the jerk? Some info. No, I didn't tell her before I didn't want her to come. It honestly just irritated me she came into my room. My family was still allowed in after she left. One visitor at a time was the rule. Updated, more info. I didn't tell her I was going to the hospital, my family did. Yes, I only consider someone family after it being legally binding on paper. I mentioned what she did in the room because that's just how it went. No, this isn't one of my many throwaways. There's just a lot of throwaways on this site, hence my name. Last edit. I've read about 1,000 of the comments as they came in. Yes, I am just that big of a jerk. No, this isn't made up, and I wish it was. A lot of you really made me think about my actions and question why, so I will be seeking out therapy after my surgery, and I'll show her this post. She said if I did something like this, that would be the outcome, and she was right. Thank you for all the You're the Jerks. I'll answer whatever questions come through now. Info. Why are you dating someone you don't want around when you're sick? I don't understand your motivations here. Info. Do you actually like this woman? Like, at all? Because you talk about her like she's the world's biggest inconvenience when she shows up at the hospital, which is normal from someone you've been dating for several years, and you don't give any reasons why you're mad at her. You chose an awkward time to tell your supposed girlfriend that she's unwelcome in your life. If she hasn't broken up with you over this, then she should be seriously considering it after the harsh words you said. You told her that she's not family with you after several years together? If you aren't partners by this time, you never will be. You're the jerk. Your mother talking about wifely duties was bizarre, but she wasn't wrong about you being the jerk when you were rude and hostile to your long-term girlfriend. You're the jerk, bro. She thought she was helping, and you're being incredibly rude to her. It's your right to not have anyone there that you don't want there, but you could have went about it in a much different manner. Am I the jerk for demanding my husband pays to replace my camera that he threw out of the boat? I, female 32, was on a vacation with my husband and his family for 5 days to another state. Truth be told, I'm not too fond of his family as a whole due to their intrusive, pushy nature, but decided to go since he insisted. I brought my video camera with me to capture some moments with him and our 4-year-old daughter. His family and his mom started complaining about not being included in the videos I recorded, but I already told them I wanted this to be a project for our small family, me, him, and our daughter. He told me that this isn't right and that's his family. His mom especially feels kind of disrespected by me continually excluding them from all of my videos. He suggested I take a video or 2 of them just to keep the peace. Well, I told him that this cost me money, but still said okay and took 2 videos, 8 minutes long, of his mom, sister, her kids, and husband, and the others. That was still not enough apparently, as his mom wanted to be present in every video I take with my daughter. I was getting frustrated, honestly. We got on a boat for a short tour, and his mom saw me recording my daughter and demanded I record her, but I politely declined. She threw a fit and told my husband, who gave me a horrible stare, then demanded that I include his mom in the entire video, but I refused. He suddenly took the camera out of my hand and threw it into the sea. I verbally gasped and then looked at him, and he sat back down nonchalantly, telling me I only got myself to blame for this. I was boiling inside. I looked over, and I swear I saw his mom smirking. I had an argument with him, telling him in front of his family that I'm expecting and then demanding him to replace this expensive camera of mine, and the tour was cut short. His family said that I, once again, ruined their trip after I packed my stuff and said I wanted to go home with my daughter. His mom remained calm while his dad defended him, saying that his son was pushed by me and acted out of frustration and that it was unrealistic of me to expect him to pay that much on something as unimportant as a camera. We went home and the fight continued. Now we're not speaking, but he keeps saying that I should have included his mom in the video and that I was no saint in this situation and shouldn't blame victim, much less demand anything from him. But I just wanted to make some memories with my daughter. Was I wrong to demand him to pay for a replacement? Get rid of him. I mean, the smirk is what took me over the edge. Get rid of him. Not the jerk, not the jerk, not the jerk. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but get rid of him. This will be how it goes for the rest of your life. Not the jerk. This behavior on your husband's part is actually concerning. If he throws an expensive camera out of frustration over something as small as his mom not being included in a video, what's to stop him from escalating over something that actually matters big time? Everyone sucks here. I mean, yeah, your husband is the biggest jerk with destroying your camera, but it is so obnoxious and passive-aggressive to be taking videos of a family outing and trying to keep some of the family out of the video. And it costs you money to record them? How? Are you stuck in the 90s and recording on tape? Why are you so bogged down in trying to make videos of how perfect your life is that you let it ruin your vacation and turn this into a big fight? It doesn't make sense to me that you're not including people in videos unless you're trying to do some special stages shot instead of just recording your life, including the extended family that is right there with you. This whole trip sounds like a nightmare from the beginning to end, and if you dislike them so much you want to passive-aggressively make a film version of your life that doesn't include them, you should probably just have declined this vacation altogether. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Don't go on vacations with people you can't stand. It's drama just waiting to happen. My crazy ex showed up at the restaurant tonight and got arrested. I had a crazy partner well over a year ago. We broke up, restraining order, stopped hearing from him. Rumor was he'd gone to jail for something else. That part of my life was over and done with. Until tonight, when he showed up at my restaurant. He's quite a bit older than me, so had the advantage when I was in a bad place. It took a long time to convince myself he was 100% at fault. He showed up right in the middle of the dinner rush. Of course, he had to pick a night when a large group of girls I know from school were at a centrally located table, and the place isn't even that big to begin with. I spotted him right away. I think I saw him subconsciously before I even fully realized it because something felt chillingly off a few minutes before I first spotted him. We're still cutting back on staff to recoup lost income during lockdown, so I was the only one out on the floor. At first, I hoped maybe it was a coincidence that he didn't realize I worked there, so he would just eat and leave. But no, he was drunkenly asking random patrons where to find me by name almost immediately. I wanted so desperately to ignore it and have him just leave of his own accord because these girls from school were right there and I did not want to be part of a big scene. But it became evident that he was not lucid, maybe something stronger than just the booze, and his behavior was escalating fast. Could not be ignored. I went back and let the owner know what was going on, but just didn't feel totally comfortable sharing the whole backstory with him. When things first turned sour in the relationship, news got out to my family and friends before I was ready to discuss it, and that fiasco is still an open sore. So I just told the owner a guy I used to know has shown up drunk and belligerent, and I know him to be violent, so I was going to call the police. The owner said no problem. He would call and even offered to tag me out and handle my tables until the guy left. But I didn't want to let this guy chase me out of my own job or stop me from living my life ever again, even just for a few minutes. And our owner is a much older guy and not so great health. The restaurant is one of the only places his wife lets him go after lockdown, and even still, he has to stay in his office when it's busy. I kept working, and the owner came and sat at the bar, keeping an eye out on my ex. He was calling out my name and saying some pretty rude things and trying to get within arm's reach. The owner is pretty paternal towards me. I've worked in this place a long time, and we're a pretty small staff, so he wasted no time chesting up to this guy and telling him, "Hey, the police have already been called. Do yourself a favor and get out." But my ex took that as a challenge and shoved this brittle old man hard. Patrons stepped in right away because it was so obviously not a fair fight between this big young guy and a little old man. But my ex can be scary, and understandably, no one was considering physically confronting him or getting between him and the owner or anything like that, so he was undeterred. He started to scream at me, demanding I leave with him, and he tried to run at me. The line cooks heard the commotion going on, and a couple came out to see what the trouble was. Most of our cooks are scrappy, but small, and I think despite their egos, they knew from one look they'd need reinforcements. It had only been about 5 to 10 minutes since we'd called the police, and in this busy city area, it takes them 20 minutes minimum to respond to anything that isn't imminently life-threatening. And all the owner had known to tell 911 at the time he called was we had a drunk and belligerent patron who might become violent. So we were definitely low on the priorities list. The line cooks went back and got one of my only real sort of work friends, coincidentally also the biggest guy on staff, Lenny. Lenny moonlights with an industrial moving company, so stays in superb shape, and is also super heavy. So he's become kind of our de facto security ever since everyone forgot how to act in a restaurant during lockdown. I really don't know too much about where he comes from, but I know it's very difficult to rattle him. So Lenny comes out and quickly assesses the situation. Someone tells him what my ex did to our poor sweet owner, and Lenny wastes no time. He tells this guy, "You're leaving. You're leaving on your own, or?" with the silence implying what the alternative was. At this time, all Lenny knew was some drunk guy showed up and shoved our boss, who we're all fond of. So my ex told him some slurred drunken crap I couldn't really understand, but it was clear from his tone that it was not complimentary. Lenny went up to escort him out, and my ex freaks out and tries to break the nearest glass in reach to use it as a weapon. Fortunately, the nearest glassware was a thick beer mug, and he couldn't break it. Lenny shrugged this off as a sloppy drunk overestimating himself and tried to go in and get him in some kind of an armbar, but the owner warned him. "Hold off. Tamira says he gets violent. Be careful." Lenny didn't know who this was yet, so he was like, "This guy put his hands on her?" and was ready to charge him. But the owner's like, No, it's her old boyfriend." Lenny doesn't know the whole story with my ex. No one at work does, but he does know more than anyone else there, so instantly put together who he was dealing with. Without even hesitating, Lenny swung at him like a piñata. My ex's lights were out. He dropped onto the floor. A couple of patrons who had wanted to get involved but didn't see an opening were emboldened to step in now that my ex was unconscious and got on top of him to make sure he wouldn't be able to leap back up when he regained consciousness, which is good because he was back almost immediately. Still groggy, but more than able to have gotten up and retaliated had these men not stepped in. Someone else was behind the bar looking for something they could use to tie his hands together with. He found a roll of packing tape and right in the nick of time because my ex was quickly getting his strength back and really fighting the guys restraining him. Lenny wanted to go launch back in on him, but the owner was talking him down, insisting it wasn't worth it. The Good Samaritans were trying to tape up his hands and feet, but the roll was nearly out, so it wasn't doing much. I was watching the whole situation unfold from behind the bar, just mesmerized and paralyzed with fear, almost like an out-of-body experience. Because it sounds like a long time when describing it, but at real-life speed, this entire encounter from the time the owner came out to confront him couldn't have been more than 3 or 5 minutes. The police got there not too long after they had tried to tape him. It took 3 people to hold him down, one of whom got socked in the process, but they kept him secured until the cops got there. The police arrested him. My restraining order expired a year after it was granted, but I'm guessing they got him for the assaults or the disorderly conduct or something. And as they were cuffing him and going through the whole process, he was screaming that someone had assaulted him and he should be arrested as well. He was visibly injured, so the cops couldn't ignore that. They asked who had assaulted him, and he pointed at Lenny. One of the patrons who had helped restrain my ex started to speak up, saying, No, look, he did it in self-defense. This man was out of control. But his buddy cut him off and basically said, This guy was banged up when he walked in. I've been here the whole time and I didn't see anything. Then his friend, who was initially offering Lenny a cover of self-defense, realized the play and backtracked, saying, Yeah, we restrained him to defend ourselves, but nobody actually hit him. That other guy just works here. Which was a relief, because Lenny is a gentle giant, but he's also kind of a mystery, so for all I know, he has priors that would have made proving self-defense difficult. The police dragged my ex out and took him in. I went home at that point, but I learned from the owner at the end of service that they also impounded the motorcycle he showed up on. That was a nice bonus. So it was all very scary. I'm glad to know my coworkers and customers have my back, but I still think I'll take a couple days off. Ultimately, just feeling grateful that I'm finally in a place where the good people in my life far outnumber the bad.
Huge shout out to our newest official channel member, Ajin. Thank you so much for your support. It really means the world to Reddit Boy and I. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.